if the first people who learned to write did not do it to celebrate their victories, but to keep a simple warning from disappearing? What would that warning feel like tonight, in the soft hours before sleep? Imagine the kind of July heat that makes the air shimmer, not with noise, but with a slow, wavering hush, like the world has decided to speak more gently. Somewhere far away from your room, far beyond the glow of screens and city lights, southern Iraq lies under that same heavy summer warmth. And beneath its dust, beneath the pale crust of earth that has hardened and cracked and healed again, there are thousands upon thousands of small clay tablets resting like sleeping stones. They are not large, many are the size of a hand, some are no larger than a modern phone, yet each one holds a quiet weight, because each was once soft clay, pressed carefully by a human hand that lived 5,000 years ago. A hand that measured grain, counted debts, marked the days when canals needed dredging. Not a hand carving a monument for a king, but a hand trying to keep the world from slipping out of balance. Tonight, we will walk slowly like someone moving through a museum after closing, when the hallways echo with a soft, respectful silence. There will be no drama here, no sharp turns, only the steady rhythm of time and the gentle way human beings have always tried to calm their fear of uncertainty by giving it shape. Before we drift deeper into tonight's gentle journey, remember to subscribe to Ancient Sleep Story. Here, you'll always find peaceful stories that soothe the heart and quiet the mind. Where are you listening from tonight? Leave a comment. Your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. And if you'd like, answer this softly, just for yourself. Where are you listening to this story right now? In bed, in the car, or in a familiar corner of your room? Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. Now, let your shoulders drop, as if they've been carrying a small invisible satchel all day. Let your jaw loosen. Let the tongue rest behind your teeth. If it feels comfortable, take a slow breath in, one that arrives like a tide, and let it out, as if you're turning down a lamp. We begin with a question that feels almost like a whisper laid on the page. What if the first civilization didn't write to remember its triumphs, but to preserve the warning that everything falls? Not in a hopeless way, not in a frightening way, more like the calm, honest knowledge that a wave will always return to the shore, and that the shore will always be changed just a little after each one. The story begins not with kings, but with excavation. In the late 19th century, explorers and archaeologists arrived at a low, sun-baked mound near a modern Iraqi city. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary hill, one of many in a flat landscape. But anyone who has spent time in places like this knows that some hills are not hills at all. Some are made of time, layer upon layer of human life, pressed down by years, by floods, by abandonment, by rebuilding. A mound is a city that has learned how to sleep. When shovels cut into that mound, they expected simple remnants, early pottery, scattered hearths, crude foundations. Instead, they found order, walls aligned with patience, drainage systems shaped by knowledge, streets that made sense, rooms that felt like storage, quiet, closed spaces where something had been kept safe. And then the tablets began to appear, thousands of them, stacked in archive rooms, shelved in the dark, buried as if the city itself had tucked them away before it fell asleep again. When you picture this, you might imagine a library, but not of paper, a library of earth. A library made from the same material as riverbanks and wet footprints, hardened by sun, and sometimes strangely hardened by fire. Hold one of these tablets in your mind the way you might hold a warm stone. In a museum, under a low golden light, the surface can look plain at first, but then tilt it slightly, and you see the marks. Wedge-shaped impressions, small and precise. A stylus pressed into soft clay. A tiny, silent sound that once happened, tap, tap, like raindrops landing on packed soil. This script is called cuneiform, and it arrived in the world already remarkably capable, already steady in its form. The earliest surviving tablets are not clumsy experiments that wobble and improve. They are systematic. They know what they are doing. They can record numbers, names, goods, obligations, schedules. They can hold a city's breath in place. And here is the soft twist, the gentle surprise that changes the way we imagine the first writing. The earliest texts we have are not myths, not epics, not hymns, not boasts. They are lists, ration lists, inventory lists, debt records, labor assignments, calculations of how many jars of beer belong to which worker, on which day, for which task. In other words, the first writing we can still read is the writing of ordinary survival. It is as if someone, long ago, looked at the world and decided, if we do not keep track, the world will tilt. One tablet from the ancient city of Uruk records grain distributed to temple laborers in a month of low harvest. Names are listed like a gentle roll call across time, quantities measured with careful attention, and at the bottom, a small line notes how many days the reserves might last. 18 days before schedules would need to change. 18 days, a number that feels quiet but close, the kind of number you write down when you want to stay calm while something uncertain approaches. If you've ever checked your calendar and felt a soft tightening in the chest, counting the days until a deadline, or counting the days until you can finally rest, then you already understand the emotional texture of that line. Because it is not panic, it is management. It is the human wish to create a small pocket of predictability inside a world that refuses to behave. And so, as we move gently through this story, we will keep returning to the same tender idea. Writing was not only a tool of intelligence, it was a tool of comfort, a way of saying to time, wait, let me place this down so I don't have to hold it in my mind all night. Think of the lists you make now. A grocery note, a reminder to pay a bill, a little line that says, call mum, a line that says, breathe. We don't always write because we have too much to celebrate. Often, we write because we have too much to carry. And if you are someone who tends to overthink, someone whose mind loves to replay conversations, predict tomorrow, solve problems at midnight, then you might recognize this ancient impulse as something familiar. Not the words themselves, not the river names, not the clay, but the feeling underneath, the desire to set something down. Now, picture the landscape these people lived in. The land between two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, a place of wide skies and flat horizons, a place where water could be generous and then suddenly, without warning, too generous, where a river could swell quickly, spill over, and turn the world into a shallow inland sea. And when the water receded, it left behind silt, rich, fine mud that fed the next harvest, and also buried what had been. This is why those mounds exist. This is why cities have layers. A flood is not only an event, it is a page turn. Each time a flood arrived, it could erase streets, fill rooms, soften bricks. It could take away a season of certainty. And when the sun returned and the ground dried, people returned too. They rebuilt. They repaired canals. They pressed clay again. They made lists again. They tried, once more, to hold the balance. If it helps, imagine history not as a straight line, but as breath. Inhale, the city rises. Exhale, the city quiets, collapses, or sleeps. Inhale, rebuilding. Exhale, another silence. This gentle rhythm is one of the reasons Sumer feels so strangely familiar to modern minds. Not because our lives are the same, but because our feelings are. We also live in cycles. Weeks that begin with effort and end with fatigue. Seasons of building and seasons of letting go. And sometimes, in the middle of a busy life, we crave the same thing those scribes seem to crave. A calm structure. A way to name things, a way to say, this is how much we have. This is what we owe. This is what we can do tomorrow. So tonight, as you listen, you don't have to learn history the way you would in a classroom. You can simply drift through it. Let it be atmosphere. Let it be a slow lantern. In a moment, we will step deeper into those layered cities. We will walk beside canals that glitter under moonlight. We will sit in a scribal school where students copy lists of trees and birds until their minds become quiet. We will notice how a base 6-0 system, their way of measuring, still lives inside our minutes and hours. But for now, at the threshold of the story, keep one simple image close. A small clay tablet resting in the dark, waiting, not to impress anyone, but to keep a fragile balance from slipping out of place. And if you're listening from bed, or from the passenger seat of a car, or from a familiar corner of your room, imagine you are placing your own thoughts one by one onto a shelf. You do not have to carry them. They can rest too. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below only if you want to. Even a few words can feel like a warm candle in a quiet room. Because the night is long, and we are going to walk slowly, and somewhere under the dust of the ancient rivers, the first writers are still whispering their quiet instruction. Keep track of what matters, not to control life, but to soften it. And just ahead, beneath the next layer of earth, another gentle question waits for us. One that the tablets never ask directly, but that their silence seems to carry. Why did they write so much? As if they expected to lose everything? Now let the story move one step deeper, the way evening moves deeper into night. Imagine a museum after hours, no footsteps, no chatter, no sudden laughter spilling around a corner. The lights are lower than they are in the daytime, and they seem warmer, as if someone has softened them out of kindness. Glass cases catch small reflections. Dust hangs in the air with the patience of something that has learned not to hurry. Somewhere inside that quiet building, a small clay tablet rests on a padded stand. It looks almost modest, almost shy. You might walk past it if you didn't know what it was. It is not a crown, not a sword, not a statue taller than you. It is only earth, shaped into a rectangle and pressed with marks so small they could be mistaken for texture. But if you lean closer just a little, you begin to see the pattern. Tiny wedges, clean angles, a rhythm of impressions that feels like it has a heartbeat. The script does not swirl like ink, it sits in place like footprints in dried mud. Each mark is the memory of emotion, a hand tilting a stylus, a wrist turning slightly, a finger pressing down with steady gentleness. And in a way, that is what writing is, motion turned into permanence. If it feels good to do so, take a slow breath in as you picture this. In and out. You are safe here. We are only looking at marks, only listening to the hush around them. Nothing demands anything from you tonight. Now, let that museum dissolve gently into another place, because behind the glass, behind the label printed in modern fonts, there is a landscape that once held the tablet before it ever reached a display case. We return to the land between rivers. The sky there is immense. It does not press down, it opens wide. In summer, the horizon shimmers. In winter, the air can be cold and sharp, but the flatness still makes distance feel like a dream. And scattered across that land are low mounds, rounded, dusty rises that look like natural hills until you learn their secret. A mound is a city that has fallen asleep in layers. People built with mud brick, because mud was what the rivers offered in abundance. Sun baked those bricks into strength. Years passed. Storms came. Floods arrived, sometimes quietly, sometimes suddenly. Walls softened, roofs fell in, dust drifted, and then people returned because the rivers were still there, and the soil was still rich, and memory has its own gravity. They built again on top of what had been. This is how time becomes a stack. So when archaeologists cut into a mound near the ancient city we call Uruk-Waka, as the place has also been known, they were not just digging into dirt, they were turning pages. Picture it gently, without the harshness of bright sun. Imagine the work happening in early morning, when the air is cooler and the shadows are long. The tools are simple, brushes, small picks, careful hands. The pace is not frantic. It is almost meditative, like gardening, like clearing a path through a quiet yard. The first fragments appear. Bits of pottery, broken brick, the smooth curve of a bowl rim, then something flatter, something deliberate, a small slab of clay. At first it may look like a plain piece of earth, but as the dust is brushed away, the surface reveals those familiar wedge-shaped marks, pressed in rows like a calm, patient song. And suddenly, the mound is not only a city, it is an archive. It is easy to imagine the past as loud markets and rituals, drums and shouting, but the past also had rooms where nothing much happened outwardly, rooms where people sat and did the quiet work that holds a society together, counting, noting, recording, remembering. In Uruk, in cities like it, there were spaces that feel almost like offices, though that word can sound too modern and too sharp. Think instead of cool rooms with thick walls, the air inside a little darker, a little calmer. Think of shelves made of wood, baskets, bundles, clay tablets stacked like small loaves of bread, each one a little message pinned into earth. A scribe would enter such a room with a kind of respectful focus. Who were they, these scribes? Not wizards, not prophets. Often they were trained workers attached to a temple or a palace, people whose skill was the ability to make order visible. They learned signs the way a musician learns notes. They learned how to set numbers down so they would not slip away. They learned to shape confusion into columns. And that training began in a place that might be one of the gentlest scenes in all of ancient history, the scribal school. Let yourself walk there now, slowly, as if you are stepping into a courtyard that holds cool shade. There is the sound of distant water, maybe a canal, maybe a jar being poured. There is the faint scrape of reed against clay. There is the steady murmur of instruction, not loud, not angry, but persistent. Students sit with small lumps of clay, damp enough to accept the stylus. Their hands are dusty, but not dirty. Their faces are serious in the way people become serious when learning something that matters. They practice the same signs again and again, not because they are dull, but because repetition is how the mind relaxes into mastery. A line of signs, then another. A list of trees, date palm, tamarisk, willow. A list of animals, sheep, goat, ox. A list of tools, plow, basket, rope. You can almost feel the soothing effect of it, like knitting, like copying lines in a notebook, like hearing the same lullaby each night until the body recognizes it as a signal to soften. In this story, repetition is not boredom, it is sleep's favorite language. Now notice the clay itself. Clay is humble, yes, but it is also miraculous. It begins as mud, soft, shapeless, easily disturbed. In your mind, touch it with the tip of a finger. It yields. It remembers pressure. It takes the shape of whatever presses into it, and it holds that shape with a quiet loyalty. When the stylus presses down, the sound is almost nothing. A muted tap, a soft, dull kiss of reed on wet earth. The wedge appears. The scribe lifts the stylus. Another wedge, another. And slowly, without fanfare, a thought becomes visible. Most people imagine writing as something you do to express feelings, or to tell stories, or to sing. But at the beginning, writing often served a simpler purpose: to make sure everyone got what they were supposed to get, and to make sure nothing vanished unnoticed. Grain was life, barley especially. It became bread, porridge, beer. It paid workers, it fed animals, it filled storerooms and emptied them. It moved through hands the way money moves through our world today. And so you find tablets that are, in essence, gentle receipts. So-and-so, this many measures of grain. This worker, this many jars of beer. This temple, this many sheep. These are not romantic lines, and yet they are deeply human. They tell you that a city is not only its myths, it is its logistics. It is the steady background work that allows people to sleep at night, knowing there will be food in the morning. And here, quietly, we can begin to see why writing might have felt comforting. Because without records, memory has to carry everything, and memory is tender and slippery and easily overwhelmed, especially in a place where floods can rearrange a life in a single day. You can feel the emotion under these lists if you read them as you might read the notes you leave for yourself. pay the bill, pick up medicine, call someone you miss. These are not dramatic lines, they are the scaffolding of care. Now, let the camera of your imagination widen. Beyond the scribal school, the city stretches out. Low buildings, courtyards, alleys. In the distance, a temple platform rises a ziggurat, not yet in its later towering forms, but still a shape that draws the eye upward, as if the city is making a gentle gesture toward the sky. Canals cut through the landscape like veins. Water moves slowly, sometimes clearly, sometimes carrying silt that makes it opaque, a soft brown that glows under sunlight. People walk along the banks, they repair a broken edge, they pull weeds. They open and close gates to guide the flow into fields. This work is patient, and patience is one of the main virtues of living with rivers. The rivers bring fertility, yes, but they also bring unpredictability. A good year can turn into a difficult year without asking permission. And so the city develops habits of measurement, habits of counting, habits of watching. And this is where another soft bridge reaches from their world into ours. They used a base 6-0 system for many calculations, 60, not 10. It sounds odd at first, but it has a quiet practicality, because 60 divides neatly into many smaller numbers, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and because of them, because of their careful way of dividing and measuring, we still count time the way we do. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. If you let that settle, it can feel almost intimate. You are listening to this story in the rhythm of their numbers. Even now, when you breathe in and out, your phone or clock measures your night using an ancient preference for 60. It is like finding an old fingerprint on something you touch every day. If you ever feel lonely, remember this: you are surrounded by quiet inheritances you did not have to earn. The past did not vanish completely. It pressed itself into the world, gently, the way a stylus presses into clay. And still, we have not yet reached the deepest softness of the scene, because there is a particular kind of quiet that belongs to an archive room. Imagine entering one, the air cooler, stiller. Light falls in a narrow way through a doorway. The smell is earth and reed and old dust. On shelves, tablets sit in rows. Some are wrapped, some are bare. Each is a small decision made long ago. This matters enough to keep. Some tablets record distribution, some record temple offerings, some list workers and tasks. Some are letters, yes, even in the ancient world, people sent messages that had to travel across distance. And it is in these rooms that we begin to feel the gentle tension that will carry us forward, the awareness that people were writing as if they expected forgetting to arrive. As if loss was not a surprise, but a season. You can sense it in the way tablets are stored, in the way copies are made, in the way the same lists appear again and again, refined, repeated, kept. The city is breathing, it is alive, but it is also preparing. And that preparation is not grim, it is not dramatic, it is simply wise. If you'd like, take another slow breath in. As you breathe out, imagine placing a small thought onto a shelf, the way a scribe placed a tablet into an archive. You do not have to keep everything in your head tonight. You can keep only what is gentle, only what is necessary. In the next part, we will begin to walk through the layers themselves, through the silt that turns lives into chapters. We will visit older cities like Eridu, where people returned again and again to the same sacred place, as if returning is its own kind of prayer. And we will listen more closely to the ordinary lines on the tablets until they become something quietly profound. For now, stay with the image of museum light on sleeping clay, a warm lamp above a small tablet, a glass case holding earth that remembers hands, a silence that feels like a blanket, and somewhere inside that silence, a promise. We will go slowly. We will not rush. We will let the past speak the way night speaks softly when you are ready to hear it. There is a kind of silence that only exists at the edge of morning, not the loud silence of an empty stadium, not the heavy silence of a broken conversation, but the soft, ordinary silence that comes right before a day begins when the world is still deciding what it will ask of you. Imagine that silence now, spread wide over the flat land between the rivers. The sun has not fully risen yet. The sky is pale, almost pearly, as if it has been washed clean. A faint breeze moves through dry grass. Somewhere in the distance, a bird calls once, then goes quiet again. And on a low mound, one of those sleeping hills made of time, there is careful movement. Hands, tools, brushes, patience. It is not violent digging. It is not frantic searching. It is more like listening, because to dig here is to read. Every layer of earth is a page. Every shift in soil color is a chapter break. Every thin band of silt is a sentence that says, gently, without emotion, a flood came, a city paused, life rearranged itself, and then, slowly, people returned. If your mind has been busy today, if it has been running through tasks and worries and unfinished thoughts, let it rest against this image for a moment. Silt like paper, mud like memory, the ground holding time the way a pillow holds the shape of a sleeping head. And if you'd like, take a slow breath in and out, as if you're turning one page at a time. In southern Mesopotamia, the rivers could be tender and terrifying in the same season. They brought fertility, dark, rich soil that made barley and dates possible. But they also carried unpredictability, because water has always been both gift and mystery. When the rivers rose unexpectedly, they spilled into streets, into courtyards, into storage rooms, not always with a dramatic roar, sometimes with a slow inevitability, like a tide coming in at night while everyone sleeps. And when the water receded, it left behind that fine, powdery mud that settles into corners. It covered thresholds, it sealed footprints, it erased small details. Then the sun came back, the ground dried, the air shimmered again, and the people, because people are what they are, began to rebuild. Not always proudly, not always confidently, but steadily. This is the rhythm of the earliest cities. Inhale, exhale, inhale. A wall rises, a roof is laid, a canal is cleared, a storeroom fills. Then something happens: water, drought, shifting power, illness, the slow wearing down of mud brick, and the city loosens, slumps, quiets, people leave or thin out. The wind moves through empty doorways, dust settles on abandoned thresholds. And then, almost unbelievably, they come back. They come back to the same place, because the land still holds its promise, because the rivers still shine, because memory, like water, tends to return to familiar channels. If you let your imagination drift beyond Uruk for a moment, you arrive at a quieter name, one that feels like a soft vowel in the mouth. Eridu. Even the sound of it is gentle. Eridu is often remembered as one of the oldest cities in the region, a place where layers of buildings stack high over centuries. And when you picture it tonight, don't picture it as an ancient site with dry facts and sharp edges. Picture it as a kind of anchor, a place people return to the way someone returns to a childhood home in their dreams. At Eridu, again and again, people built and rebuilt a temple in the same spot. Not because the building never mattered, but because the spot mattered more than the structure. The location itself became sacred, not in a loud, thunderous way, but in the quiet way a certain chair becomes your chair, or a certain corner of a room becomes your corner, simply because you have sat there through many seasons of your life. You can almost feel the tenderness in that repeated choice. We will rebuild here. We will begin again here. We will place our hope in the same patch of earth. And if you've ever had to start over after a hard year, after a loss, after a change you didn't ask for, you might understand this impulse more deeply than you think. Starting over isn't always a dramatic act. Sometimes it's a quiet decision made in the morning to keep going. Now, let's walk slowly through the city life itself. Picture the canals first. Canals in Mesopotamia were not decorative, they were survival. They were the difference between fields that fed a family and fields that cracked under sun. They required steady work, digging, dredging, clearing weeds, repairing banks after water chewed at them. It is easy to romanticize ancient life, to imagine it as all mystery and ritual, but much of it was labor, and much of that labor was rhythmic, the kind of rhythm that can become almost soothing when done every day. A worker lifts a basket of mud from the canal edge. Another spreads it along a bank, reinforcing it. Someone else opens a gate, guiding water toward a field. The water moves, slow and purposeful, like it has a destination. In the distance, date palms sway. Their fronds whisper to each other. Their fruit will ripen in season, heavy and sweet. Somewhere nearby, a small boat slides along a canal, carrying reeds, clay, maybe jars. The sound of water against wood is steady, quiet enough that you might not notice it until you stop talking. And that's the invitation tonight. Stop talking inside. Let the water talk instead. If you're still awake, notice your own breathing. It has its own canal. It knows how to move without your help. In a city like Uruk, the temple and the palace, two great centers of organization, needed records, not because they were obsessed with control, but because cities at this scale required coordination. Who worked where? Who received food? How much grain was stored? Which canal needed repair? Which field belonged to which group? And so, alongside the canal workers, there were the scribes. Think of a scribe walking through the city in the late afternoon. The heat has begun to soften. The light has turned gold. Dust floats in sunbeams. The scribe's hands are stained with clay. The stylus, perhaps a reed cut to a blunt edge, rests like a familiar tool in their palm. They enter a storeroom where barley is kept in large jars or bins. The air inside is cooler, darker. Someone calls out numbers, someone else measures. The scribe listens, then presses marks into a soft tablet. Tap, 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 tap. The sound is almost nothing, but it is the sound of a society refusing to dissolve. And this is where the gentle journey of our story truly begins. Not with a quest across deserts or a chase through danger, but with a slow walk through ordinary systems. Because the oldest cities were held together by ordinary steadiness. Now let your imagination return to the scribal school, because there is something deeply sleep-like about it. A student sits on a low bench. A lump of clay rests on their knees. Their teacher, older, calmer, practiced, points to a model tablet. The student copies, not once, but many times. Lists, lists, lists. You might think lists are boring, but lists have a secret. They create a predictable pattern. Predictable patterns soothe the nervous system. They tell the mind, you do not need to brace yourself for surprise. And that is why this scene works so well for night. A student writes, barley, then writes it again, then again, writes, sheep, again, writes, fish, again, writes, jar, again. The stylus makes small, repeated impressions. The student's mind begins to quiet not because they are sleepy, but because repetition is a kind of gentle hypnosis. You can feel it even now, as you listen. A little part of you may be relaxing simply because the rhythm is steady. If you'd like, you can borrow that rhythm. In and out. Slow, simpler, unforced. And while the students write lists of objects, they are also learning something else, something that doesn't appear on the tablets but lives behind them. They are learning how to trust a system. They are learning that the world can be counted. That effort can be recorded. That resources can be tracked, that obligations can be named, not to dominate life, just to reduce panic. Because if you can name what you owe, it becomes less monstrous in the dark. You may recognize that too. A bill feels larger when it sits in the mind, vague and looming. A task feels heavier when it is undefined. But when you write it down, when you give it a shape, it often becomes smaller. The scribes of Mesopotamia were doing that for an entire city. Now, let's widen the scene again, because beyond the school and storerooms, there is the layered earth itself. In a mound, one layer might show a time when people used a certain kind of pottery. Another layer might show a different kind. One band of soil might be darker because it held ashes, evidence of a fire that passed through. Another band might be pale and fine, evidence of silt left by floodwater. And in the middle of those layers, there are thresholds, doorways that once led into homes. Picture a home, a small courtyard, open to the sky, a jar of water kept in shade, a reed mat rolled up in the corner, a clay oven for bread, a sleeping area where a family lay close together to share warmth in winter and to share coolness in summer nights when the air finally moved. Someone wakes before dawn, someone else stirs barley, a child rubs sleep from their eyes, an older person steps outside and looks at the canal level, reading water the way you might read weather. These lives were not abstract, they were textured. They had fatigue, laughter, worry, comfort. They had the same small tenderness that exists in your life, the way you set something down carefully, the way you pause before speaking, the way you exhale when the house finally quiets. And this is the soft miracle of the tablets. They are not only records, they are shadows of people's days. A name on a ration list is a person who once got hungry. A number beside a jar is a person who once drank. A note about labor is a person who once worked until their muscles ached. History becomes gentle when you remember that. Now, as we move through this journey, let's stay attentive to one particular sensation, the sense that these cities were built with an awareness of impermanence. Because the rivers taught that lesson constantly. You can build, you can store, you can plan, and still, a flood can arrive. Still, a drought can stretch a season thin. Still, a shift in power can change what a city is allowed to be. So what do humans do? They make systems. They make rituals. They make records. They create small islands of stability inside a shifting world. And this is where the story begins to lean toward its deeper, softer question. What happens when you write? Not because you trust memory, but because you don't? Imagine a scribe late at night, one of those rare nights when the air is cooler and the city feels hushed. A lamp burns low, fueled by oil. The light is soft, trembling slightly. The scribe sits with a tablet and copies an older tablet, not because the information is thrilling, just because it must not be lost. Copying is an act of faith. Copying says, what was written before still matters. Copying says, we are connected to those who came before us. Copying says, even if the world changes, the thread can remain. And if you've ever reread an old letter, or saved a photo, or kept a small object from a past season of life, you already understand this feeling. Some things are kept not because they are useful, but because they are anchors. And now, as part 3 comes to its gentle close, let's plant a quiet seed of curiosity, just enough to keep you drifting forward, not enough to wake you. Because the more we walk through these cities, the more it becomes clear. They were writing constantly, not only once in a while, not only when something special happened, but steadily day after day, like someone who expects the ground beneath them to shift. And soon, we will reach the soft discovery waiting inside that habit. We will find tablets that speak in the calm voice of arithmetic about something fragile, reserves that will last only so many days. We will find the strange tenderness of a record that admits uncertainty without panic, and we will notice a paradox, one that feels almost like a quiet poem. Sometimes, what hurts a city also preserves its memory, but not yet. For now, let the silt settle. Let the canal water move slowly. Let the scribal school continue its steady tapping, tap, 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 like rain on earth. And if you're listening from bed, imagine placing your own worries into a soft archive, not throwing them away, just shelving them for the night. You can return to them tomorrow, if you must. Tonight, you are allowed to rest. Some discoveries don't arrive like thunder. They arrive like a lamp being turned a little lower. They arrive as a gentle noticing, a small shift in the air, a detail you might have missed if you were moving too quickly. Tonight, our discovery begins in a storeroom, not a dramatic chamber with towering columns, not a royal hall with jeweled walls, but a practical room made for keeping life steady. Imagine stepping into it from the bright afternoon outside. The heat of the day is still pressed against the city walls, but in here, the air is cooler, the light is dimmer. You can smell barley dry and dusty and faintly sweet. Large jars sit in rows, baskets rest in corners. The floor is packed earth, smooth from many footsteps. Somewhere above, a small opening lets in a thin ribbon of sun that falls like warm dust across the room. The scribe enters quietly. He is not here to judge or to celebrate. He is here to count. If you'd like, let your breath slow with his steps, in and out, as if each breath is a measured pace across a calm floor. On a low table, there is a lump of clay kept damp in a covered bowl. Beside it, a stylus, perhaps a reed cut and shaped by hand, familiar as a spoon. The scribe sits down, rolls the clay gently, and presses it into a small tablet. The surface becomes smooth, like river mud after water has settled. Across from him, a storekeeper speaks softly, almost like someone reciting a prayer. So many measures of barley, so many jars of beer, so many rations for the workers. The scribe listens, and then, very calmly, he begins to press marks into the clay. Tap, dies id, tap, tap. Wedges appear in rows, neat and patient, not beautiful in a decorative way, beautiful in the way a well-made fence is beautiful, or a cleanly swept path. Beautiful because it holds chaos back. And as he writes, you begin to understand something that changes the feeling of the first writing forever. The first surviving writing, in many cases, is not trying to impress the gods. It is trying to keep the pantry from running empty. It is trying to keep a promise to ordinary people. There will be enough, or if there won't be enough, at least we will know in time to soften the fall. This is the soft twist that waits beneath the dust of the earliest tablets. Not a shocking revelation, just an intimate one. Writing was born, at least in part, from the quiet fear of imbalance. And maybe you can recognize that fear. It's the feeling you get when you check the calendar and realize the month is already slipping away. The feeling when you check your bank account at night. The feeling when you count days until rest. It's not panic, it's awareness. And awareness is often the beginning of tenderness. In the storeroom, the storekeeper pauses. The scribe lifts his stylus, listening. There is less than we hoped, the storekeeper says. His voice is not dramatic. He doesn't throw his arms up. He doesn't announce disaster. He simply names what is. The scribe continues to write. That is his job, to hold the truth steady without making it louder than it needs to be. And then comes a line, one of those lines that, when you read it thousands of years later, feels strangely close to the chest. A note about how long the reserves might last. Not forever, not safely into next season, but a certain number of days, 18 days. Just that, a number pressed into clay with calm hands. If you let your mind linger here, you can feel how human it is. Because this is what people do when uncertainty approaches. They count, they calculate, they try to shape the unknown into something the mind can hold. And perhaps, without realizing it, you do the same. You count hours of sleep you might still get. You count tasks remaining. You count the distance to the weekend. You count the days until something changes. Counting is not always anxiety. Sometimes it is the mind's attempt to be gentle with itself. Now, widen the scene. Outside the storeroom, the city continues. A canal glimmers in late light. A donkey cart rolls slowly along a path. Somewhere, a child laughs. Somewhere else, a woman shakes out a reed mat. The evening meal is being prepared in courtyards. Barley, bread, dates, maybe fish if the day was lucky. Smoke rises thinly from small ovens and drifts into the sky. Life looks normal, and that too is part of the soft discovery. The world can look normal even when resources are running thin. The tablets do not scream. They do not plead. They do not try to create drama. They simply record. This calm recording is one of the most soothing things about ancient cuneiform, if you allow it to be. It is not writing that tries to hook you with excitement. It is writing that tries to keep you steady. A scribe is, in a way, a keeper of nerves. He takes what could become chaos and lays it down into rows. He turns fear into a pattern. If you've ever written a list at night to calm your mind, tomorrow, this, then you have touched the same impulse. Now, let's follow the scribe out of the storeroom. He steps into the open air. The heat of the day is fading. The sky has softened into amber. Shadows lengthen. The city's sounds become lower, like music turned down before sleep. He walks toward an archive. An archive is not a place of glory. It is a place of care. Inside, shelves hold tablets. Some are new, still slightly damp. Some are older, hardened, dusty, steady. The scribe places the fresh tablet down with a particular gentleness, as if setting a sleeping child into bed. This is another quiet detail that matters. They did not only write, they stored, they kept, they organized. They treated information like something worth protecting. And if you listen closely, you can hear the deeper emotional truth under that habit. They expected forgetting. They expected loss. They expected that the city might one day be quiet, that people might leave, that buildings might sink into silt. They did not know when, they did not know how, but the expectation was present, like a shadow that follows even in sunlight. So they wrote, and they copied. In some places, generations of scribes copied older tablets, sometimes because the information was useful, sometimes because copying itself was a way of passing the thread of memory forward. A student might sit in the scribal school and copy a list that had been copied 100 times before. The repetition would become a bridge across centuries. Copying, like rebuilding, is a form of hope. And here, softly, without pushing our story, begins to offer you a gentle mirror, because modern life can feel like that too. You build routines, you store notes, you save photos, you back up files, not because you think disaster is certain, but because you know life changes, and you want to preserve what matters. If you'd like, let yourself feel the warmth of that connection. You are not alone in your desire for steadiness. People have wanted steadiness for a very long time. Now, let's rest for a moment on a detail that feels almost like a secret handshake from the past. Those scribes used a way of counting that shaped the world quietly. Base 60. It sounds strange at first, but it is the reason your night is measured the way it is measured. 60 seconds, 60 minutes. So even now, right now, your breath is moving through a timekeeping system that carries their fingerprints. If you want, you can let that be comforting. It means the past is not only behind you, it is around you, woven into the simplest things. A clock, a circle, a minute passing. And perhaps that's why these tablets feel so tender when you imagine them, because they are not the voice of a distant alien world. They are the voice of a world trying to stay balanced, the same way you try to stay balanced. Now, come back to the scribe for one more gentle moment. It is evening now. He sits again, maybe in a courtyard where the air is finally moving. A lamp burns low. He takes another tablet, older, worn, and begins to copy it. Tap, tap, tap. The marks appear again. There is something nearly lullaby-like about this sound. A quiet percussion that does not demand attention, only invites steadiness. And then, without warning, but without shock, your mind may realize something. The oldest writing we can still touch is not a song of conquest. It is a song of accounting. It is the city whispering to itself, here is what we have, here is what we owe, here is what we must do to make tomorrow possible. And that whisper is so gentle, so ordinary, that it almost becomes sacred, because it tells you what humans truly fear. Not monsters, not dramatic villains. They fear the slow slipping away of order. So they press order into clay. And if you are someone who has carried too much in your mind lately, too many tabs open inside your thoughts, then let this be your permission slip. You don't have to hold everything tonight. You can place it down, the way a scribe placed a tablet on a shelf. You can let the shelves hold it until morning. In the next part, we'll move even closer to the paradox, waiting inside these tablets. One of the quietest, most beautiful paradoxes in ancient history. Sometimes the very thing that hurts a city is the thing that preserves its memory. We will step into a city's hush after trouble has passed through, not with horror, not with spectacle, but with the softened lens of time. We'll see how fire, which usually destroys, can also harden clay into permanence. And we'll begin to understand why so many tablets survived at all. For now, let the discovery remain simple and warm. The first writing was not born from glory, it was born from care. It was born from the human wish to keep balance, quietly, patiently, one small wedge at a time. There is a quiet rule in the world of clay. When clay stays soft, it can be changed. When clay dries in the sun, it becomes firm but still fragile. And when clay meets fire, it becomes something else entirely. Tonight, our story turns gently toward that strange third state, because it is one of the tender paradoxes of the ancient world. Sometimes, the very thing that passes through a city like trouble is also the thing that quietly preserves what the city tried to remember. If that sounds heavy, let it soften in your hands. We are not here for shock. We are only here for the way time can turn pain into permanence without raising its voice. So, imagine the tablet again, not in a museum now, not behind glass. Imagine it back in the archive room, on a wooden shelf. The clay has dried, but it is still, in a way, vulnerable like a dried leaf that could crumble if pressed too hard. A scribe has placed it there, trusting that the walls around it will keep it safe. Outside, the city breathes. A canal murmurs. The evening wind moves through reed roofs. Somewhere, someone pours water into a jar, and the sound is small and comforting. And yet, over the centuries, cities do not always remain gentle. Sometimes a drought arrives and makes tempers thin. Sometimes trade routes shift. Sometimes authority changes hands. Sometimes the river moves the way it wants to move. And sometimes, in the slow vocabulary of history, a city experiences what we might call a hard season. You don't need to picture it as a scene of chaos. Picture it the way you might picture a sudden summer storm, the sky darkening, the air changing, the sense that something has turned. There is tension, yes, but not the kind we will linger on. We will linger instead on what happens afterward when the air settles and objects remain. Because when archaeologists found so many tablets intact, it was not only because scribes were careful. It was also because, on certain days in the deep past, fire moved through rooms and did what fire does, and then, without intending it, did something else. It baked. It turned soft earth into ceramic memory. A city might burn, and a roof might fall, and a room might fill with ash. But the tablets on a shelf, those small squares of clay, could be transformed in the heat, like bread in an oven. Instead of crumbling with time, they hardened. Instead of dissolving back into dust, they became durable. It is almost too strange to believe, and yet it is one of the reasons we can still hear these voices at all. If you'd like, let your breath slow again. In and out, like a warm current moving through a quiet house. Now, let's follow this paradox to another place, because Uruk was not the only city that kept such shelves of earth. Farther north, along the Euphrates, there was a city whose name feels like a soft exhale, Mari. Mari sat along the river like a listener, a place where messages arrived, where officials kept records, where letters traveled between people who might never see each other's faces. And in Mari, the evidence of writing is not only lists of barley and sheep, it is also correspondence letters that carry worry, gratitude, instruction, apology. Human tones that feel, in their quiet way, familiar. Picture a palace complex, organized, practical, corridors, courtyards, rooms with thick walls that keep heat out. And within these rooms, an archive, thousands upon thousands of tablets arranged like a sleeping flock. Some are administrative, yes, but some are personal in their texture, even if they are official. A governor writes to a superior about canal repairs. A messenger reports delays. A servant lists supplies. A priest records offerings. A person somewhere asks another person somewhere else for help. We are not going to hurry through these. Just let the idea settle. There were people who wrote to each other and waited for an answer. And somewhere in that waiting is something we can recognize, because waiting quiet, uncertain, stretched over days is one of the most human experiences there is. In Mari, many tablets survived because they were stored in large numbers in rooms that later collapsed. Walls fell, ceilings came down, dust and debris created a protective blanket. Time sealed the archive like a jar. So when modern hands uncovered it, the tablets were still there, stacked in their patient rows. And this brings us to the second soft discovery of our story. They did not only write once, they wrote, and then they wrote again. They copied. A student in a scribal school might copy a list not because the list itself was thrilling, but because copying was how you learned, and also how you kept the old lines alive. A scribe might copy a text because the original was wearing down, or because the memory contained inside it was too important to risk losing. Copying is a gentle form of devotion. It says, "I know I will forget." It says, "I know this city will change." It says, "I know the river will not always do what I hope, so I will press this down and press it again and place it where the future can find it." There is a sentence that seems to float like a quiet key above all of this. Writing is what you invent when memory has betrayed you once. It does not accuse memory of being bad. It simply admits what we all know, if we are honest. A mind can only hold so much. Maybe you have felt that lately. You meant to remember something small, a name, a date, a promise. And then the day moved too fast, and the thing slipped away. The ancient scribes did not have phone reminders. They did not have calendars that beep. They had clay, reed, and habit. They had the patience to place their worries into an object. And perhaps that is why their writing feels soothing in a way our screens do not. A tablet cannot scroll. A tablet cannot refresh. A tablet does not beg for attention. It simply stays. Now, return to the archive room one more time and feel it as a space. Low light, cool walls, the faint smell of clay dust and old reed, shelves that look almost like ribs holding the body of the city's memory. Each tablet, a small bone of information. A scribe enters with a lamp. The flame is steady, small, warm. He takes a tablet, reads it with his fingertips, because cuneiform is often as tactile as it is visual. The wedges catch light differently when you tilt the surface. It is like a landscape of tiny valleys. He sets the tablet down again, and he knows what it contains. Numbers that keep workers fed. Names that keep people seen. Inventories that keep panic from spreading. And then, in the far distance, a change in the wind. Not a scream, not a sudden catastrophe, just a sense that the air has shifted. History often arrives that way. Not always with a headline, often as a quiet alteration in mood. A rumor travels. A messenger arrives late. A storehouse feels lighter than it should. A river level is wrong. A season refuses to behave. And the city responds the way cities respond, with more writing, more records, more calculations, more lists that try to keep the world from tilting. There is something profoundly comforting in that response, if you let it be, because it is not a response of drama. It is a response of organization. And organization, at its best, is a form of care. Now, let's hold the paradox again, gently, so it doesn't prick the mind. Clay is fragile. Fire is destructive. And yet together they created the possibility that you and I could meet the scribes tonight. If fire had never passed through certain rooms, many tablets would have returned to dust. Rain and time would have softened them again. But the heat sealed the wedges into permanence. The very event that ended a chapter made the chapter legible. If you've lived long enough, you may recognize a quiet version of this in your own life. Sometimes, a difficult season leaves behind something unexpected. Clarity, a changed value, a gentler boundary, a deeper gratitude for the ordinary. Not because suffering is good, not because you asked for it, but because humans are capable of turning what happens into meaning, slowly, with care. The scribes did this with clay. We do it with memory. If you'd like, take a slow breath and let that thought rest. In and out. No effort required, just a soft release. And now, because we are making a gentle journey, let's allow a small question to appear, one that does not demand an answer, only offers a warm place for the mind to land. If you had a clay tablet tonight, what would you set down on it so you could stop carrying it for a few hours? You don't have to write the answer. You don't even have to think it clearly. Just let the question hover like a lantern. For the ancient cities, the tablets often held practical truths. How much barley is left? Who worked today? What must be repaired tomorrow? But beneath those truths was something softer, the desire to make uncertainty less frightening by naming it. And soon, in the next part, we will step into texts that move beyond lists, texts that speak not only of goods and labor, but of cycles, of authority, of loss, and of the long, quiet effort to understand why cities rise and fall. We will meet the idea of kingship moving from place to place, like a traveling flame. We will hear the hush of lamentation songs that are sad, yes, but also strangely calming because they place grief into a rhythm. And we will watch how people looked at the sky for signs not to control fate, but to prepare their hearts. But for now, let part 5 end where it began, with a small tablet on a shelf and the strange kindness of fire. In the dark archive, the lamp burns low. The city outside becomes quiet. A breeze moves through reeds, and the tablet, hardened by heat, waits. Not for glory, not for conquest, but for a future ear gentle enough to listen. Tonight, the cities are still breathing. Not loudly, not proudly, just steadily like someone asleep in a familiar house, the chest rising and falling without effort. If you imagine the land between the rivers again, you may notice how the night changes it. In daylight, everything is flat and bright, the horizon sharp, the heat insistent. But at night, the landscape becomes softer, edges blur, distances feel kinder, the canals take on a quiet shine, as if they are holding small ribbons of moonlight in their hands. And somewhere inside one of those cities, Uruk, or Eridu, or another name, lost under silt, there is a room with a low lamp and a person sitting close to the light. Not a warrior, not a king, just a scribe, or a keeper, or a clerk with tired eyes. He has been writing, not because he enjoys the motion of it, though he may, a little, not because he believes writing can stop the river, but because writing can stop something else, the mind's spiral. Outside, a breeze moves through reeds. Inside, the lamp makes the walls look warmer than they are. The clay tablet in front of him is smooth and waiting, and the stylus in his hand is not dramatic, only practical, yet it carries a strange power. It turns what is fleeting into something that can be placed down. Tap, tap, tap. If you'd like, let your breathing match that slow rhythm for a moment. In and out, as if the night is copying your breath the way the student copies signs. Now, as we move into the deeper part of our journey, the tablets begin to speak in a different tone. They are still quiet, still grounded in ordinary needs, but some of them begin to reach beyond the storeroom, beyond the canal gate, beyond the daily list. They begin to touch the larger question that always lives behind a city's routines. Who holds the order? Because a city is not only mud brick and grain, a city is also agreement. It is the shared belief that tomorrow will resemble today enough for plans to matter. And when that belief trembles, people look for something steady, something named, something recognized, something that can be spoken aloud. This is where one of the most curious and strangely soothing texts of the ancient world drifts into view, a list of kings. Not a story in the way we usually mean story, not a saga with scenes and dialogue, more like a spine of names, a chain of places, a calm insistence that order has a history. It is often called the Sumerian king list, and its mood is both grand and oddly simple. It tells you that kingship authority, legitimacy, the right to rule moves. It is given to one city, and then, later, it moves to another. If you listen to that idea without getting caught in the details, it can feel like a lullaby of impermanence, a reminder whispered in the language of administration. Nothing stays in one place forever. Not power, not wealth, not certainty. And yet, life continues. You might picture a scribe reading such lines late at night, the lamp trembling slightly, the city quiet outside. The scribe does not read it like gossip. He reads it like weather, like a pattern, like the turning of seasons. Kingship came down. Kingship moved on. Kingship came down again. The words themselves are a kind of soft acceptance, a way of saying, the world changes, and we will not pretend otherwise. We will name the change and keep walking. If you are someone who has lived through changes, you did not choose jobs shifting, relationships rearranging, plans dissolving, this can land in a tender place, because the king list, beneath its official tone, carries a human consolation. Even when the center moves, the world does not end. People adapt. They rebuild. They keep making bread. They keep clearing canals. They keep counting minutes. And your body, listening tonight, can receive that as permission. You can be changing and still be okay. Now, not far from the calm certainty of lists, there is another kind of tablet, one that holds sorrow the way a bowl holds water, not spilling it everywhere, not denying it, simply containing it in shape. These are the laments. Imagine a city after a hard season, not as flames and shouting, "Let's not go there." Instead, imagine the quieter aftermath, streets emptier than usual, doorways unoccupied, a wind moving through courtyards that once held evening meals. The sound of water in the canal still present, but sounding lonelier because fewer voices answer it. In the ancient world, when a city fell into silence, people did not only record the practical losses, they also sang, or wrote, or recited. They created lamentations, poems that mourned a city the way one might mourn a person. What is soothing about these laments, when you meet them at night, is not their sadness, it is their rhythm, their willingness to say, yes, this happened, and we are still here. There is a certain calm that comes from naming grief without turning it into panic. A lament does not fix the city, but it gives the heart somewhere to place its ache, and that, too, is a kind of order. If you have ever lain awake with a quiet heaviness, missing someone, missing a time, missing the simpler version of yourself, then you may recognize the value of a lament, not as a performance, but as a soft container. In Mesopotamia, laments sometimes speak of gods departing, of protection lifting, of a city becoming empty. To modern ears, that can sound dramatic. But if you soften the image, you can hear something more universal, the feeling that meaning has left the room. We all know that feeling, in our own way. A workplace that no longer feels like home, a relationship that grows quiet, a season of life that ends without a clear goodbye. The ancient poets translated that feeling into imagery. They gave it a shape the mind could hold, and there is something quietly healing about that. Now, between the lists of kings and the laments of cities, there is another body of writing that might surprise you with how gentle it can be: omens. The word omen can sound sharp, as if it belongs to fear, but in the ancient cities, reading signs was often less about terror and more about preparation. It was a way of looking at the sky, the weather, the behavior of animals, the small shifts in the world, trying to understand the mood of what was coming. Think of it like this: when you check the forecast before you drive, you are not trying to control the clouds. You are simply trying to carry an umbrella if needed. In Mesopotamia, people watched the world in a similar spirit. They noticed the moon's shape. They noticed the direction of winds. They noticed unusual patterns and tried to interpret them. In the wrong hands, that can become obsession. But in the gentler frame, it becomes a habit of attention, almost a mindfulness practice, rooted in the sky. Picture someone on a roof at night. The city is quiet. The heat has eased. Above, The stars are sharp, scattered like grains across a dark cloth. The person looks up, not to worry, but to steady their heart. The sky is older than any city. The sky has seen everything rise and fall, and still it remains. There is comfort in that. And so, when you read an omen tablet with soft eyes, you can treat it as a record of humans trying to be less startled by change, trying to meet the unknown with readiness rather than panic. That is the thread connecting all these texts. The ration list says, "Here is what we have." The king list says, "Here is where authority moved." The lament says, "Here is what we lost." The omen says, "Here is what we watched for." Different genres, different moods, yet all are ways of calming the nervous system of a society. They are the city's breath turned into marks. And now, as part 6 deepens into reflection, let's return to the simplest, most intimate truth of all. Writing does not prevent collapse, but it prevents helplessness, because helplessness is the feeling that nothing can be named, that nothing can be placed down, that everything is an invisible wave. Writing says, this wave has a shape, this wave has a time, this wave can be met. If you are listening tonight with a mind that has been running, planning, rehearsing, worrying, then let the ancient scribes offer you their quiet trick. Place it down. Even if only in imagination, you might picture an invisible clay tablet beside your bed, a smooth surface, cool and waiting. And as each thought appears tomorrow's meeting, an old conversation, a worry you can't solve right now, you press it gently into the clay and let it stay there. Tap, moo-were, tap, tap, not to erase it, just to hold it somewhere other than your chest. If you'd like, try it with one small thought, not the biggest one, just a small one. Press it into the imaginary clay, then breathe out. Now, because we are moving toward a gentle expansion, we can allow one more soft realization to settle one, that the tablets never state directly, but that you can feel in the way they were kept, copied, shelved, and protected. The ancient cities were building a memory that was meant to outlive them. Even if they did not say it aloud, their actions suggest it. Why copy a text unless you believe a future reader might exist? Why organize an archive unless you believe tomorrow will come? This is hope, written in wedges. Not loud hope, not inspirational speech hope. Quiet, practical hope, the kind that shows up as routine. And perhaps that is the kind of hope you need most too. Not the hope that says everything will be perfect, but the hope that says, I will keep going gently. I will keep doing the next small thing. The scribes did the next small thing. They counted grain. They recorded names. They copied lists. They watched the sky. And in doing so, they created a kind of soft lantern for us, so that on a night like this, you can listen and feel less alone inside your own cycles. If this part of the story brings up a memory of a place you once lived, of a season you once survived, of a person you once loved, you can let that memory be here without chasing it. Just let it sit like a tablet on a shelf. You don't have to solve it tonight. You don't have to explain it. You can simply rest with it. And now, as we prepare to move into the next part, we'll let one gentle question linger, our small mini cliffhanger that doesn't jolt the mind, only opens a door. If writing cannot stop the world from changing, what can it stop? In part 7, we will move closer to the answer. We will listen for the way writing turns fear into something quieter. We will see how a city's balance is not only about food and walls, but also about time itself, about minutes, days, and the soft human wish to believe that order can return after uncertainty. For now, let the lamp glow. Let the canal water move slowly. Let kingship move like a lantern from city to city in the mind's gentle distance. And let the night hold you with the same patient care the scribes gave their tablets. In the ancient cities, night did not arrive with neon and notifications. It arrived the way water arrives in a canal, quietly, steadily, until the whole world seemed a little softer. Picture the rooftops of Uruk under a sky that has finally cooled. The day's heat still lives in the bricks, but it is fading now. leaving behind a gentler warmth. Somewhere in a courtyard, a lamp glows low, and the light does not travel far. It simply creates a small island of amber, a private circle where a person can sit and do one simple thing without being rushed. A scribe is there. Not the kind of person history usually turns into a hero. No armor, no procession, no music. Only a reed stylus, a small tablet of clay, and the calm attention that comes from doing the same work again and again. Tap, tap, tap. Oh, each mark is a tiny decision. To keep track, to stay steady, to make the invisible visible. And, if you listen closely to the hush around that tapping, you begin to hear what writing was really doing for these cities. Not only recording grain, not only naming workers, not only measuring beer and barley, writing was quieting something inside the human chest. Because when you can name something, it becomes less frightening in the dark. You already know this, even if you've never held clay in your hands. A worry feels huge when it is a mist. A worry feels smaller when it becomes a sentence. A task feels heavy when it is vague. A task feels lighter when it becomes a list. Tonight, we are following the oldest version of that gentle trick, the ancient act of placing a thought down so the mind does not have to carry it all night. If you'd like, take a slow breath in and let it out with a little softness. No need to force calm, just let the body remember that it already knows how. Now, imagine the city from a little higher up, like the slow camera of a quiet film. Below the rooftops, the canals cut through the darkness like long, patient mirrors. The water is never fully still. It is always moving a little, even when the night is quiet. A gate creaks somewhere. A dog shifts in its sleep. From a distant house comes the faint sound of someone settling onto a reed mat. And beneath that living city, beneath the layers of mud brick and silt, there is an even deeper stillness. The archive rooms, the shelves, the stacked tablets, memory sleeping in rows. The scribes knew something that we often forget until we lie awake. Memory is tender. Memory is strong, but not endless. Memory can betray you without meaning to. So they built an external memory, one made of earth, rhythm, and repetition. They did it with a practical purpose, yes, but it also had a quiet, emotional side. It gave them a way to meet uncertainty without losing their balance. In those cities, uncertainty came in many forms. Sometimes it was the river. Sometimes it was the sky refusing to behave. Sometimes it was a delay in a shipment. Sometimes it was a season when the barley did not fill the jars the way it should. And sometimes uncertainty was simply the feeling that the world could tilt at any time and you would have to keep going anyway. So the scribes made certainty where they could. Not certainty of outcomes, certainty of process. A measured line, a careful count, a record that said calmly, this is where we are. And in that process, something else became possible. Trust. Not trust that nothing bad would happen, but trust that if something changed, people would notice, respond, and rebuild like they had done before. This is why the tablets can feel strangely comforting. They are not optimistic in a loud way. They are steady in a quiet way. They are the city whispering, we are paying attention. Now, let's step into one small scene that carries this feeling like a warm cup in the hands. A storeroom at dusk. The day's work is ending. Workers are tired. Their faces are dusty. Their shoulders have the heaviness of someone who has lifted baskets and walked canals and stood under sun. A supervisor speaks in a low voice, reading numbers from memory, while another person measures grain into a container. The scribe sits beside them, not above them. He listens, writes, listens again, and when the tablet is finished, something happens that is both official and strangely intimate. A seal. In many ancient cities, people carried small cylinder seals, tiny carved stones that could be rolled across wet clay. The designs were personal and recognizable, like a signature you could feel with your fingertips. When the seal rolled, it left a repeating image. Maybe animals in a line, or a figure before a symbol, or stars, or reeds. Imagine the motion. A hand presses the cylinder at the edge of the clay. then rolls it forward, slowly, steadily. The image appears like a gentle fabric pattern. This is not a loud act, it is not a flourish, it is a quiet confirmation. Yes, this record is real. Yes, this account is acknowledged. Yes, the city agrees to remember. And something about that motion can feel soothing to a modern mind, because it is repetitive, because it is tactile, because it turns anxiety into pattern. If you're listening from bed, you might picture that seal rolling across your own invisible clay tablet. Only tonight, the seal is your breath, and the pattern it leaves is steadiness. In and out. In and out. Now, the question we carried at the end of part 6 returns softly. If writing cannot stop the world from changing, what can it stop? Here is the gentlest answer. Writing can stop panic from filling every corner. Not forever, not perfectly, but enough. When a city has a record, it does not have to guess wildly. When a person has a list, they do not have to rehearse the whole day in their head. When a community has an archive, it can tell itself, "We have been here before." This is what those shelves of tablets truly were, a calm reassurance made visible. And maybe you can feel why that matters for sleep, because at night, the mind often acts like a river in flood season, moving faster, swelling with images, picking up fragments of the day and carrying them into the dark. It doesn't do this because you are broken. It does it because your mind is trying to solve, to prepare, to protect. The ancient scribes would understand that impulse. They would simply offer you a tool, not a dramatic tool, a quiet one. Place the thought down. So, if it feels comfortable, try this with me very lightly, without pressure. Imagine a smooth clay tablet beside your pillow. It is cool, slightly damp, ready to receive marks. Now, choose one small worry, one that has been circling, not the biggest one. You don't have to name it perfectly. Just sense it. And then, in your imagination, press a single wedge into the clay. One mark. That's enough. Now, breathe out. You can come back to that thought tomorrow. Tonight, it has a place to rest. In the cities between rivers, this act of placing down was not only personal, it was communal, because every tablet was a small thread in a larger fabric. One record connected to another record. One list linked to another list. One letter traveled to another city and returned with an answer. Together, they formed something like a calm nervous system for a society, signals that moved information through the body of the city, so that fear did not have to become a stampede. And here, we can make a gentle bridge to your world. You may feel alone sometimes when you are tired. You may feel as if you are carrying everything by yourself, but you are living inside a web of quiet help calendars, systems, schedules, shared routines, people doing their part so the day can keep moving. In the ancient cities, the tablets were one of those webs. They were proof that even in a world of floods and dust, humans built ways to hold each other up. If tonight's story has brought you a sense of connection, you can leave a gentle comment for yourself only if you want to. A single word is enough. A small mark on your own modern tablet. Now, let's return to the water for a moment, because water is the great teacher of this whole landscape. The river does not promise stability, it promises movement. So the cities learned to build stability inside movement. They made canals, gates, schedules, counts, and records. They turned flow into rhythm. This is why the base 60 system feels more than a fact. It feels like a philosophy. 60 is divisible, flexible, shared. It breaks into halves, thirds, quarters, fifths. It is a number that welcomes splitting and rejoining like time itself. And time, in these cities, was not only a measurement, it was a comfort. A day is a day. A month is a month. A storehouse can last so many days. A canal repair takes so many days. A journey takes so many days. When you can say days, you can breathe. Because days are countable. Forever is not. This may be one of the most practical gifts these tablets offer your modern night. They invite you to trade forever for today. Not, I will carry this forever, but I will hold this today and place it down tonight. Now, the gentle journey continues, and we begin to approach something that looks like a climax in slow motion, not an explosion, but an opening. Because if writing can quiet panic, then it can also do something even softer. It can create meaning after uncertainty, not by explaining everything, not by making the world fair, but by giving the heart a shape to hold. This is why lists eventually become poems. This is why records eventually become laments. This is why letters eventually become stories. A city writes, and then it reflects. A person writes, and then they understand themselves a little more. And maybe you can feel that happening to you now, without effort. As you listen, your own mind may be loosening its grip, your shoulders may be sinking, your eyelids may be growing heavier, not from boredom, but from permission. Because nothing in this story is asking you to brace. Everything is asking you to release. We will end part 7 with a small, quiet door opening our soft cliffhanger, the gentle thread that pulls us forward without waking you. In one archive room, among the shelves, there is a tablet that is not a list of barley or beer. It is a copy of something older, a text that has been rewritten by many hands. The scribe lifts it, tilts it toward the lamp, and the wedges catch light like tiny dunes. He reads slowly, and as he reads, you sense the message behind the message. Not everything can be controlled, but everything can be met with steadiness. In part 8, we will follow that steadiness into the most tender kind of wisdom these cities left behind, the wisdom of cycles, the way people learn to expect return after loss, the way they learn to rebuild without bitterness, the way they learn to let the night come and still trust morning. For now, let the seal roll one last time across your imaginary tablet. Let the pattern repeat. Let the breath remain simple. Tap, dot, tap, tap, and let the nameable unknown rest on a shelf, safe enough for sleep. There is a moment in every night when the world seems to exhale, not because something dramatic has happened, but because the day has finally stopped asking you questions. The lights in your room grow softer, the sounds outside become fewer. Even the air feels different, cooler, slower, as if it is learning how to rest. In the land between the rivers, there was a moment like that too. After the last voices faded from a street, after the last jar was set down, after the last gate was checked, the cities would settle into their own nighttime hush. Uruk, Eridu, Nippur, names like distant lanterns, would lie under a sky so wide that it could hold every worry without reacting. And in that wide sky, the ancients learned one of the gentlest truths a human can learn. The world changes. And then, quietly, it changes again. Everything moves in cycles. Not always fair cycles, not always predictable ones, but cycles all the same. A flood comes, the water leaves, silt remains. A city rebuilds, a harvest arrives, a storeroom fills, a season passes, a storeroom empties, a ruler rise, a ruler fades, a new name is pressed into clay, and beneath all of that, beneath the work and the waiting life, continues its steady small gestures. Bread being shaped, hands being washed, children being called in at dusk, mats being rolled out for sleep. Tonight, we step into that gentle loop of returning, not as a lesson, not as an argument, but as a feeling you can borrow, the way you borrow warmth from a blanket. If you'd like, take a slow breath in, let it arrive like water reaching the edge of a canal, and breathe out, as if the canal has carried it safely away. Now imagine a city after a hard season, but before any story has turned it into a tragedy. There is no shouting, no spectacular, only quiet evidence that something has shifted. A doorway that hasn't been swept, a courtyard where the fire pit is cold, a storehouse that feels lighter. And yet, even here, the night is still the night. The moon still lays pale light across rooftops. The wind still moves through reeds. This is the tone the tablets often carry if you read them like someone who is not trying to be impressed. They rarely say, "Everything is ruined." They more often say, "Here is what changed." And that calm approach, naming the shift, recording it, storing it, becomes a kind of inner skill. Because once you accept that life moves in cycles, you begin to stop demanding that the world stay still. You begin to look for the next small step. You begin to rebuild without needing the rebuild to be perfect. That is what Eridu teaches us in its quiet, repeated architecture. Again and again, people return to the same sacred spot. They built a temple. Time passed. They built again. Not because they were naive, not because they believed the building would last forever, but because returning itself was part of their steadiness. Returning said, "This place still holds meaning." Returning said, "We are still here." If you've ever returned to something that comforted you, your favorite chair, a familiar song, a path you like to walk, then you understand this in your bones. We return because the nervous system loves familiarity. We return because repetition can be a form of safety. And the ancient cities were full of repetition, not only in their buildings, but in their writing. Lists repeated, forms repeated, seal patterns repeated. Students copied the same signs until the signs became effortless. It can sound dull in the abstract, but at night, repetition is a kindness. Repetition says, you can relax, nothing sudden is coming. You don't have to be on guard. So let the story repeat its own calm shapes now. The rivers rise, the rivers fall. The silt settles, hands return. The stylus presses, the stylus lifts. Another wedge appears. Another line becomes steady. Tap, tap, tap. In some archives, the tablets were grouped and stacked as if someone had planned for the future to need them. In others, the tablets were left in rooms that later collapsed, sealed by debris like a gentle lid. Either way, the result is the same. The cities kept leaving themselves messages. Not romantic messages, not dramatic ones. Practical messages meant to be useful. And yet, when you listen to them at night, you can hear the softer message beneath the practical one. We expected change, and we kept going anyway. That is the wisdom of cycles. It does not promise you that nothing will hurt. It does not pretend uncertainty will disappear. It simply shows you a way to move through it without losing your center. At some point, you can almost feel the scribes understanding this. They know a city can fall quiet. They know the river can refuse to cooperate. They know memory can slip. So, they practice a particular kind of courage. The calm courage of routines. They keep writing. They keep copying. They keep measuring. They keep storing. In your own life, you have your own versions of this. You make coffee. You fold laundry. You answer messages. You pay bills. You check the calendar. You brush your teeth. You set your phone down and try quietly to sleep. These are not small things. These are the rituals that keep you from feeling like the ground is dissolving under your feet. And it may help, tonight, to realize that rituals are ancient. A scribe's ritual was clay and reed and shelves. Your ritual might be a dim lamp, a familiar video, a cup of water, a certain pillow, different objects. Same intention, to signal to the body that it is safe enough to soften. So, if you're still awake, let this part of the story be a slow invitation to soften. Let your forehead smooth out. Let your eyes rest in their sockets. Let the back of your neck release. And in the quietest part of your mind, imagine the ancient city doing the same. The gates are closed. The canals are calm. The air is cooler. A dog curls up near a doorway. Somewhere, a family lies down, close together, listening to the night. Across the city, in a room with thick walls, the archive sleeps. The tablets are stacked. The lamp is out. The darkness is not frightening here. It is simply the dark that follows a day of work. And this is where laments begin to make a different kind of sense. A lament is not only sadness. A lament is a way of moving sorrow through the body, so it does not become stuck. In the ancient world, a lament might be recited like a slow river song. The words would carry grief, but the rhythm would carry steadiness. It would say, "We lost something," and then, quietly, it would say, "We are still breathing." There is a tender kind of healing in that, not the healing that erases pain, the healing that makes room for it without letting it take over. If you've had a day that felt heavy, you might not need a solution tonight. You might only need room. The ancient texts, in their own way, offer room. They do not rush you. They do not force a bright ending. They simply place experience into shape. And shape is what the nervous system understands. A list has shape. A ritual has shape. A cycle has shape. Even sleep has shape. A slowing, a drifting, a letting go. So as we float deeper into this gentle loop, notice how the cities themselves practiced letting go. When a flood came, they did not only curse it, they rebuilt after it. When a ruler changed, they did not only panic, they named the change and reorganized. When a storeroom ran low, they did not only despair, they counted days and adjusted. That doesn't mean it was easy. It means they chose steadiness anyway. And perhaps that is the soft gift you can carry out of this part. You can choose steadiness, too, even when you don't have perfect certainty. You can choose one small routine, one small kindness, one small breath, in and out. Now, let's return gently to that paradox we met earlier, fire that saves. Because in cycles, even loss can become a kind of preservation. Not because loss is good, but because time has a strange way of folding events into meaning. A room collapses and tablets are sealed. A fire passes and clay becomes permanent. A city quiets and an archive becomes a time capsule. It is as if history itself, without intending to be kind, sometimes creates a cradle for memory. And that brings us to a softer, more personal thought. You are also a keeper of memory, not in shelves of clay, in small habits, in photos, in the way you remember the sound of a voice, in the way you carry the feeling of a certain year. Some memories are heavy, some are warm, some are simply there, like silt at the bottom of the mind. Tonight, you do not need to sort them. You can let them settle. If tonight's story has reminded you of a quiet place you once loved, a street, a kitchen, a childhood room, you can let that place appear in your mind and then let it fade again, like a lantern drifting on water. No effort, no gripping, just a gentle return. And as we near the end of part 8, we place one more small question on the shelf, our soft thread that will lead us into the next section. If cycles are real, if cities rise and fall and rise again, what is it that remains constant enough to guide a person through the changes? The scribes seemed to believe the answer was not a king, not a wall, not even a storeroom. They seemed to believe the answer was the quiet work itself, the counting, the naming, the recording, the small acts that keep a world from feeling unreal. In part 9, we will step closer to that guiding constant. We will follow a single motif, barley, water, breath, through multiple layers of time, and watch how something ordinary becomes a lantern. We will let the story widen into a calm kind of awe, the kind that makes the mind feel small in a comforting way, not a frightening one. For now, stay in the loop. The river moves, the city sleeps, the tablet rests, and you here, tonight, are allowed to rest with them. Somewhere in the deep past, a person stood beside a canal at dusk and watched the water move. Not quickly, not dramatically, just steadily, with the quiet confidence of something that has always known where it is going. If you imagine that canal tonight, let it be gentle. The banks are low and worn smooth by hands and seasons. Reeds lean toward the surface as if they are listening. The sky is widening into indigo, and the last light of the day rests on the water like a thin veil. This is not a scene of conquest. It is a scene of continuity. In the cities between the rivers, continuity was not guaranteed by kings, or walls, or even temples. Continuity lived in the ordinary things that returned each day. Barley ripening in the fields, water being guided into channels, breath moving in and out of a tired chest. And perhaps that is the constant we have been circling without naming too loudly. Because when everything changes, when authority shifts, when seasons misbehave, when a city grows quiet, these three things still offer a path back to steadiness: food, water, breath. So tonight, let's follow them slowly, the way you might follow a soft lantern through a dark hallway. First, barley. Picture the fields outside the city walls. They are not endless like modern farms, but they are wide enough to matter. Rows of green and gold move in the evening breeze. The heads of grain bow slightly, heavy with their small, practical sweetness. Barley is humble, but it is faithful. It becomes bread. It becomes beer. It becomes the measured comfort of knowing that tomorrow can be fed. Imagine a courtyard kitchen at twilight. A clay oven still holds a little warmth from baking. Someone breaks barley bread with quiet hands, and the steam smells like earth and patience. Nearby, a jar of beer, cloudy, living, waits in the shade, because even celebration here is simple. A drink after labor, a slow ease in the shoulders, a small laugh that doesn't need to echo far. In the archive rooms, barley appears again and again, not as poetry, not as myth, but as the steady heartbeat of a city. A tablet says, in the calm language of numbers, this many measures received, this many distributed, this many remaining. There is tenderness in that calmness, if you allow yourself to hear it. A record like this is not only accounting, it is reassurance. It is a hand on the shoulder of the future. Now, water. The rivers did not merely pass through these lands. They shaped them. They taught people to plan without pretending they could control everything. They taught people to build gates and canals and schedules, and also to accept that sometimes the river will still do what it wants. Imagine a worker at dawn, stepping barefoot near the canal edge. The mud is cool. A thin mist hovers above the surface. He lifts a simple tool and clears a small blockage. He adjusts a gate. He watches the current change just slightly and he nods, satisfied. It is a small act, but small acts, repeated, become stability. If you are listening tonight with a mind that wants to fix everything at once, let this be a gentler lesson. You rarely need to fix the whole river. You only need to clear one small gate, one small channel, one small thought. And then, breath. This is the most personal constant of all, because it is happening right now, whether you notice it or not. The ancient scribes measured time in ways that still touch you: 60 seconds, 60 minutes, but your body measures time more simply. It measures in breaths. So, if it feels comfortable, let your attention settle on your breathing for a moment. Not to force it, not to improve it, just to notice it the way a person on a roof notices the moon. In and out, slow as canal water, steady as a list being copied, soft as barley heads moving in wind. In the scribal school, a student learns numbers the way a lullaby learns your body, by repetition. A teacher speaks, low and even, and the student presses wedges into clay 1, 2, 3, then pauses, then begins again. The sound is almost nothing. Tap, tap, tap. And the mind, hearing that softness, starts to unclench. In the ancient world, those three constants braided together into a quiet promise. When barley was counted, breath could loosen. When water was guided, fear could soften. When a tablet was shelved, a mind could sleep. And that is what makes the archives feel almost like a sanctuary when you picture them at night. Imagine stepping into one now. The room is cool. The lamp is low. Dust floats in the light like tiny drifting stars. Shelves hold tablets in rows, their surfaces rough and quiet. A scribe moves slowly between the shelves. He is tired, but not frantic. He knows his work matters, but he also knows the night is not meant for rushing. He takes a tablet down, tilts it toward the flame. The wedges catch the light and turn into small shadows. He reads, not with excitement, but with steadiness. Here is what we have. Here is what we owe. Here is what we will do tomorrow. When he finishes, he rolls a small seal across the damp edge of clay. The pattern repeats: animals, reeds, stars, an image that says, gently, "This is acknowledged." And in that repeating line, you can feel how the city tries to keep itself calm by making trust visible. If you have ever whispered a plan to yourself at night just to calm your mind, then you understand this scene perfectly. Because the plan is not the point. The calming is the point. Outside, the city is quiet. Somewhere, a dog turns in its sleep. Somewhere, a child breathes in the rhythm of a dream. The river continues moving in the dark, patient and unseen, and the scribe, with his clay and his lamplight, is doing something almost modern in its kindness. He is taking weight off the mind. This is the moment when the story widens into a calm kind of awe. 5,000 years can feel like an impossible distance, too large for the heart to cross. But when you listen to these simple constants, the distance shrinks. Barley, water, breath. You have eaten. You have needed water. You have inhaled and exhaled. You have tried to make tomorrow feel manageable. So the past is not only behind you, it is beside you, moving quietly like a second river. And in a small, almost funny way, you can feel the bridge right on your bedside clock. Every minute you watch drift past is divided the way their minds once divided it. 60 and 60 again. Even time, the most restless thing, is quietly sharing their old habit with you tonight. If you feel alone tonight, let that companionship be gentle. You do not need to imagine crowds. Just imagine one person, long ago, doing the same quiet work of steadiness you are doing now, trying to rest. And if tonight's story has brought you a small moment of peace, you can leave a gentle comment for yourself, only if you want to. A single word, calm, or here, or breathing, is enough. Small marks have always mattered. Now, as we prepare to drift toward the next part, we place one more soft question on the shelf. If barley, water, and breath are the constants, what is the lesson they teach, again and again, across every rise and fall? In part 10, we'll follow that lesson into the quiet philosophy the tablets seem to carry, that sometimes the most powerful form of order is not control, but acceptance, the kind that lets you stop fighting the night and finally let it hold you. Somewhere between midnight and morning, the mind learns a small secret. It is not a secret you figure out. It is a secret your body remembers, the way it remembers the weight of a blanket or the sound of rain on a window. The secret is this: not everything needs to be solved tonight. In the cities between the rivers, they learned that secret the hard way, not through a single dramatic moment, but through thousands of ordinary ones, through flood seasons that arrived without warning, through harvests that rose and fell, through rulers who came like bright lamps and then, quietly, went out. And still, the canals kept moving. Still, barley ripened. Still, breath returned, in and out, in and out. If you're listening from bed, let your shoulders sink a little deeper. If you're listening from a car, let your hands soften on the wheel. If you're listening from a familiar corner of your room, let that corner become warmer, as if the night itself has decided to sit with you. Now, come back with me to a single room in an ancient city. It is not a throne room. It is not a temple courtyard filled with voices. It is an archive room, cool, dim, and quietly organized, like a mind that has learned not to panic. Shelves line the walls. On them sit tablets, stacked in rows. Some are pale with dust. Some are darker, baked harder by heat long ago. Each one holds a small part of the city's calm. Measurements, names, promises, reminders. A scribe enters with a lamp. The light is low and golden, the kind of light that does not shout. It falls across the tablets and makes their wedge marks shimmer in tiny shadows. The scribe's sandals barely sound on the packed earth floor. He moves as if he knows. The quieter he is, the more the room will give him. He takes down a tablet and tilts it toward the flame. The wedges catch the light like small dunes in a desert of clay. He reads, slowly, not because he is struggling, but because slowness is respectful. Here is what we have. Here is what we owe. Here is what we will do. And then he pauses, not for drama, for breath. Outside, the city is sleeping. A dog turns in its dream. A distant gate creaks once and settles. Somewhere, water moves through a canal with the soft sound of something that has no need to hurry. Inside, the scribe remains still, and in that stillness something shifts so gently it could be missed. He realizes what writing has never been able to do. Writing cannot stop the river. Writing cannot stop time. Writing cannot stop loss. And yet, writing has been doing something else all along, something quieter, something kinder. Writing has been teaching acceptance. Not the cold acceptance that says, nothing matters, but the warm acceptance that says, this is what is true and I can still be steady. If you've ever had a day when you tried to control everything, every outcome, every feeling, every conversation, then you know how exhausting that becomes. You also know the relief of the moment you finally say, softly, to yourself, I can't hold it all, and I don't have to. And in that quiet moment under the endless sky, something felt different. It was not a miracle. It was a release. The scribes of Mesopotamia did not write because they believed they could make life perfectly predictable. They wrote because they knew life would not be. They wrote because there is a comfort in naming what is real. They wrote because truth, when spoken gently, is less frightening than uncertainty when it roams loose. This is why the oldest tablets can feel like lullabies. A lullaby does not change the night. A lullaby changes your relationship to the night. So let's widen our view again slowly, like a camera pulling back in a quiet film. Imagine the city at night, seen from above. The roofs are flat. The courtyards are squares of darkness. Lamps glow in a few places, like small fireflies caught under clay. Beyond the walls, fields rest, and the river slides through the landscape like a sleeping animal, breathing without being watched. The city's order is not a single thing. It is 1,000 small acts. A canal gate opened at dawn, a basket of silt lifted and carried away, a loaf of barley bread made and shared, a line of wedges pressed into clay, a seal rolled across the surface, repeating its quiet pattern. This is the climax of our story, if we can call it that. Not a battle, not a spectacle, a realization. Order is not control. Order is care, and care can exist even inside uncertainty. In some tablets, you can feel the edge of worry without the sharpness of panic. A record notes that supplies are lower than expected. Another notes a delay. Another notes an adjustment. The city does not collapse in language. The city breathes through it. If your mind has been rehearsing fears at night, if this happens, then that will happen, then listen to how different this ancient rhythm is. It does not multiply the unknown. It places the unknown into a container. One line, one number, one name, and then the tablet is set down. This is acceptance made physical. Now, stay with the scribe for one more gentle scene. He returns the tablet to its shelf. His fingers linger for a moment on the clay, as if feeling the warmth of hands long gone. Then he steps back and looks at the room. It is not beautiful like a palace. It is beautiful like a pantry. Beautiful like a neatly folded stack of towels. Beautiful like a calendar with clear lines. It is beauty that reduces fear. The scribe lifts his lamp and begins to walk out. As he reaches the doorway, he pauses again, and perhaps, only perhaps, he thinks of the phrase that later generations would echo in different forms. Kingship moved. The gods arrived. The gods departed. To modern ears, the gods can sound far away. But if we soften it, the gods becomes another word for the forces we cannot control. Weather, time, chance, loss, change. And so the line becomes a lullaby of acceptance. Order will return until the gods decide otherwise, not as a threat, as a release. Because if order can change, then you do not have to grip it with white knuckles. You can enjoy it while it is here. You can rebuild when it shifts. You can rest tonight without making tomorrow your battlefield. If you'd like, breathe in with that thought and let it out slowly, as if you are setting something down on a shelf. In and out. Now, the story expands outward, but its heart stays small. It expands to the idea that the first writers were not only building cities, they were building a way of living with uncertainty, a way of saying, we will not pretend, we will not panic, we will measure, we will record, we will share, we will return. And perhaps, in the gentlest way, that can become your own quiet practice. Tonight, you do not need to control the whole river of your life. You only need to be kind to your own nervous system. You only need to make one small gate in the mind feel safe enough to close for the night. If tonight's story has brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself, only if you want to. A single word is enough. A single wedge. Because small marks have always mattered. Now, let's let the camera drift again, away from the archive and toward the sky. A roof in the ancient city. A person lying on a reed mat. The air is cooler now, and the heat has softened into something almost comforting. The stars are sharp and quiet, and they do not demand anything. They simply exist, like time. Somewhere in the distance, the river moves. Somewhere closer, a small lamp goes out. Somewhere inside you, your thoughts begin to slow, the way a marketplace quiets after closing. And in that slowed down space, another truth becomes possible. You can be unfinished and still be safe. You can have questions and still rest. You can be in the middle of a season and not know what comes next, and still let your body sleep. Because sleep is not an agreement that everything is solved. Sleep is an agreement that you will return to the world after rest, with softer hands. That is the final widening of the story's climax, and it is gentle enough to feel like warmth. The past does not promise you certainty. The past offers you companionship. A scribe, 5,000 years away, presses wedges into clay. A listener, tonight, hears those wedges as a rhythm. Two nervous systems, separated by time, share the same desire, to set down what is too heavy to hold. Now, as part 10 nears its close, we place a small, quiet doorway ahead of us, our soft thread into the final resolution. If acceptance is the art the tablets were teaching, what does a peaceful ending look like? Not a perfect ending, a peaceful one. In part 11, we will walk back down from the sky into the smallest details again, dust on shelves, the weight of a tablet in the hand, the hush of museum light, and we will gather the story into a warm reflection that feels like coming home. Before we end this part, linger for a moment with one last image, simple, repetitive, and kind. A student in the scribal school has stayed late, not as punishment, not from fear, only because the student has discovered something strangely soothing in the work. A small tablet lies on the student's knees. The clay is cool. The lamp is low. Outside, the city has quieted into its nightly hush. The student copies a short list: trees, birds, tools again and again. Each line is almost the same. Each mark lands gently. And with each repetition, the student's mind becomes less crowded. Tap, 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 tap. It is the sound of a thought being placed down. It is the sound of tomorrow being allowed to wait. It is the sound of a body learning, I can rest now. If you are still awake, you can borrow that lesson in the easiest possible way. Take one slow breath in. Hold it for the tiniest moment, just long enough to feel it. Then let it out as if you're smoothing a wrinkle from the day. For now, let the lamp dim. Let the archive sleep. Let the river move without being watched. And let your mind, too, learn the soft art of accepting. Not everything needs to be held tonight. The night, in the end, is never asking you to be brilliant. It is only asking you to be gentle. So let us return, slowly, to where we began, back to the quiet that feels like a museum after closing, back to the warm lamplight, back to the clay that once held a city's breath and now holds ours, Imagine walking down a long hallway of glass cases. The floor is smooth, your footsteps are muted, the air is cool and still, the way air becomes when it has been undisturbed for hours. Somewhere, far away, a security light hums softly. The building is not asleep, exactly just resting. In one case, there is a small tablet from southern Mesopotamia. It is not glamorous, it is not loud, it does not glitter. And yet, if you stand there for a moment, if you allow yourself to be unhurried, you can feel how much care it took for this object to exist. Someone gathered clay from a riverbank where mud is soft and generous. Someone kneaded it and pressed it into shape. Someone held a reed stylus in a steady hand and made wedge after wedge, as if building a little fence against forgetting. Someone dried the tablet, shelved it, copied it, trusted it, and then, long after, time covered it, sealed it, and brought it back. That long chain of care is what you are really listening to tonight. Not only history, in the cold sense of dates and facts, but the quieter history of attention, human attention, placed onto something tangible, so the mind could unclench. If you're still awake, you might notice that your own body is doing something similar right now. It is conserving, it is lowering its lights, it is turning down the volume of the day. Even if your thoughts are still moving, your body is trying to guide you home. So let your breath be simple. In and out. Now imagine, beside that museum case, a placard, one of those small labels with tidy letters. It might tell you the approximate age, the place, the material, but it could never tell you the most important part. The most important part is the feeling inside the marks. Because those wedges are not only writing, they are effort turned into calm. They are a person saying, "I will not let the world become uncountable." Before we leave the museum, linger just a little longer in that soft corridor. You might hear your own world faintly behind the walls of the night, the distant hush of traffic, a refrigerator clicking, a fan turning, the gentle buzz of a phone that you have already decided not to answer. These sounds are modern, but they have the same function as the old sounds of canals and courtyards. They tell your nervous system that life is continuing, and you do not need to manage it all right now. And in that museum hush, you can also feel how small the tablet is compared to everything it carried. A whole city's balance compressed into a hand-sized slab. A whole season's worry pressed into a few quiet lines. A whole community's agreement sealed with a pattern. It's a reminder that weight does not always come in large shapes. Sometimes the heaviest things are the most ordinary. A small number of days, a simple list, a name written down so it won't disappear. If you've been carrying ordinary weight lately, emails, schedules, decisions, expectations, let this be your gentle permission. Ordinary weight deserves ordinary kindness. Sometimes kindness looks like making a list. Sometimes it looks like closing a tab. Sometimes it looks like letting your shoulders fall. The scribes did not manifest calm, they built it, wedge by wedge, and you can build it too, in your own quiet ways. Now let the story slip into your room again, as if the museum door has opened and the soft air of night has followed you home. Maybe you are under a blanket. Maybe you're in a chair. Maybe your face is turned slightly toward the pillow. Wherever you are, imagine that the warm museum light has become the dim light you keep near your bed, just bright enough to feel safe, not bright enough to wake you. On your bedside table, there might be something like a modern tablet, a phone, a screen, a notebook, a clock. It holds your lists, your reminders, your messages, your own archive of daily life. And here is a quiet thought that often brings comfort to people who overthink. You do not have to empty your mind to sleep. You only have to stop gripping it. A river can keep moving while you rest. A thought can keep existing while you sleep. A worry can remain unsolved while your body repairs itself. The ancient cities, living with rivers that never truly stopped moving, understood this instinctively. They did not demand stillness from water. They built channels, they shaped flow, they accepted movement and found steadiness inside it. So tonight, if your thoughts are still moving, you can treat them like water. You can let them pass without chasing them downstream. If a thought comes, you can say softly, "I see you." Then you can let it move on. Then you can return to the breath, your simplest channel, in and out. And if tonight's story has touched something tender, if it reminded you of a place you once loved, or a version of yourself you miss, or a season you survived, know that you don't need to do anything with that feeling right now. You can simply let it be near you, like a warm stone in your pocket. If you ever want to share, you can leave it in the comments below, just a sentence, just a fragment, only when you're ready. Even a small memory can become a soft lantern for someone else. Because here, no one rests alone. Every quiet listener is part of an invisible archive. People scattered across different rooms, different cities, different nights, all choosing the same thing: a gentle story, a softer breath, a slower return. And in that shared choice, there is a kind of peace the scribes would recognize. Not loud peace, practical peace. The peace of doing the next small thing and then letting the night do its work. And perhaps you've had nights, maybe many nights, when your mind made the world feel uncountable. Too many obligations, too many uncertainties, too many things that could go wrong, too many conversations to replay, too many decisions to revisit. If that sounds familiar, then this is the place in the story where the past reaches out with its softest hand. It does not say, "Stop thinking." It does not say, "Be positive." It does not demand that you fix yourself. It only offers a different motion. Place it down. In the ancient cities, they placed it down into clay. In your life, you might place it down into a notebook, a calendar, a quiet routine. Or, tonight, you can place it down into imagination. Picture that invisible tablet beside your pillow again, smooth, cool, waiting. You do not need to carve a whole paragraph. One small mark is enough. A wedge for tomorrow. A wedge for later. A wedge for not tonight. Tap, then breathe out. Because sleep is not an argument you win. Sleep is a door you soften your way through. Now, let the museum dissolve, and let us step back into the ancient room one last time. The archive room with thick walls, the low lamp, the shelves of tablets resting like quiet loaves. Dust floats in the lamplight. The dust is not dirty, it is simply time made visible. It drifts slowly, like snow you can't touch. In the corner, a basket holds fresh clay. On a small table, a reed stylus lies where someone left it, as if they expected to return after a short rest. The scribe enters, but tonight he is not hurried. He reads a tablet, sets it down, and for a moment he listens not to the city outside, but to the silence inside the room. The silence is not empty. It is full of everything that has already been placed down: numbers, names, agreements, small promises. And in that moment, you can sense the deepest comfort these tablets offer. They are proof that even people living under immense uncertainty can create small islands of steadiness. They cannot stop floods. They cannot stop power from shifting. They cannot stop loss. But they can stop one thing that is especially cruel at night: the feeling of drifting alone without a map. A tablet is a map. A list is a map. A ritual is a map. Your own bedtime routine, however imperfect, is a map too. A dim light, a glass of water, a familiar voice, a story that moves slowly enough for your heartbeat to follow. When you listen to a sleep story, you are doing something ancient. You are letting a narrative become an anchor. And anchoring is not weakness, it is wisdom. Now, let's gather the story into a gentle reflection, something you can carry without effort. The first writing we learned was not born from glory, it was born from care. It was born from the wish to keep grain balanced with hunger, labor balanced with reward, time balanced with hope. It was born from a simple human admission: memory cannot hold everything, especially when life is loud. And if you think about it, that admission is also a form of kindness, because the moment you admit you can't hold everything, you can begin to stop trying. You can begin to share the weight with systems, with routines, with other people, with tomorrow. You can let tonight be tonight. Outside the archive, the city sleeps. The canal water moves without anyone watching it. The river, farther out, turns under moonlight. The fields rest. The barley waits for morning. Nothing is being solved right now, and yet everything is still alive. This is the soft art of accepting that the tablets practiced and that you can practice too. Do what you can, gently. Place down what you cannot carry. Return again when the sun returns. If you'd like, take one more slow breath in, and as you exhale, imagine setting a tablet down on a shelf, very carefully, as if it is a sleeping thing. Now, one more image, just to close this part with warmth. In a scribal school, the last student has gone home. The benches are empty. The clay practice tablets lie in little stacks. A lamp burns low, and the shadows in the corners look soft, not threatening. On one tablet, the student has pressed a list of simple words: trees, birds, tools, again and again. The marks are uneven in places, but earnest. The work is not perfect, but it is real, and that, in the end, is the most human thing of all. Not perfection. Practice. We practice steadiness. We practice letting go. We practice returning. Tonight, you do not need to be perfect at resting. You only need to practice softness, one breath, one gentle image, one slow sentence at a time. In the next and final part, we will let the lights dim even further. We will return to the shelf of clay one last time, and we will close the story as a bedtime story should close, not with a sharp ending, but with a quiet lowering of the curtain. The night has done what it always does when we stop fighting it. It has softened the edges. The day, with its sharp corners and bright demands, feels farther away now, like a city you can still see across a river, but you don't have to cross again until morning. So let's return, very gently, to the simplest place in this whole story. A room, a shelf, a small tablet of clay. Imagine the archive again, but quieter than ever. The lamp is lower. The light is no longer strong enough to illuminate the whole room. It only touches what is closest: the edge of a shelf, the curve of a basket, the faint dust in the air drifting like tiny, slow-moving stars. The tablets rest in rows. They do not ask for attention. They do not demand to be understood. They simply remain calm, patient, and oddly warm, as if memory itself still carries a little heat from the hands that made it. In the doorway, the scribe pauses. He is tired, the kind of tiredness that does not hurt, but settles into the bones like a deep exhale. He has done his work. He has counted what needed counting. He has named what needed naming. He has set the city's worries into orderly lines and placed them where they can rest. And now he is allowed to stop. He reaches toward a shelf and touches a single tablet. Not roughly, not hurriedly. He touches it the way you touch the edge of a blanket before you pull it up, making sure it's there, making sure the night is safe enough to enter. Then, very slowly, he sets the tablet down again. A simpler motion. And yet, it contains everything we have been walking toward all night. Because that motion is the oldest bedtime ritual of all. The act of placing something down. If you'd like, let your own body mirror that motion now. Let your shoulders drop a fraction. Let your hands loosen. Let the muscles around your eyes soften, as if they are being warmed from the inside. In and out. Now imagine that you, too, have a tablet tonight. It doesn't have to be clay. It can be an invisible surface beside your pillow, smooth and cool and waiting. And on it, you can place one thing, just one, that you don't need to carry into sleep. Not the biggest fear, not the deepest grief, just one small weight. A task, a thought, a worry that keeps circling. You press it into the tablet gently, one wedge, one quiet mark. Tap. Then you set the tablet on a shelf. You don't throw it away. You don't deny it exists. You simply place it where it can wait. Because the night is not asking you to solve your life. The night is only asking you to rest inside it. Outside the archive, the ancient city is almost completely still. The canals are dark mirrors now. The fields lie quiet under moonlight. The river moves with no witness, patient as it has always been. And somewhere, in a courtyard, a family sleeps, breathing in the slow rhythm of safety. Somewhere else, a dog curls tighter, chasing a dream. Somewhere else, a lamp goes out and the darkness deepens, not as danger, but as comfort. This is what the tablets knew, even if they never wrote it out in poetry. The world can be uncertain, and still you can rest. The river can change, and still you can sleep. The city can rise and fall, and still you can find a steady rhythm, barley, water, breath, simple things that return. So let the story become very small now, as bedtime stories should. No more widening into big history, no more stepping through layers, only the quiet after the journey. Dust settles on shelves. The air in the archive cools. The scribe's footsteps fade down a corridor, then disappear. In the distance, the night wind moves through reeds, and the sound is soft, like a hand brushing over fabric. If you're still awake, you can let your mind return to one image that felt warmest tonight. Museum light falling on a tablet like a golden leaf. A canal glimmering under the moon. A student pressing signs again and again until the mind grows quiet. A seal rolling in a repeating pattern. Choose one and let it play slowly, like a loop. No effort, just a gentle return. In and out. And here is the soft reflection we can leave with you, like a small candle in the dark. Sometimes, what we need most is not certainty. Sometimes, what we need is a gentle way to move through uncertainty. The ancient scribes found that way by naming things, by counting, by recording, by placing down what was too heavy to carry alone. You can do that too tonight and tomorrow and whenever the day feels loud. And if you are someone who often feels like you must hold everything together, remember what the tablets quietly show. The smallest acts are the ones that keep the world from feeling like it's falling apart. A list, a breath, a glass of water, a kind word, a promise you keep gently, not perfectly. Now, before we let the story fade completely, here is a final, gentle invitation. Only if you are still listening, only if it feels right. If this story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself. And don't forget to subscribe for more peaceful nighttime journeys. Where are you listening from tonight? In bed, in the car, or in a familiar corner of your room? If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below only when you're ready. Because here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. Now, the lights can dim further. The archive becomes darker. The shelves disappear into shadow, but the tablets remain, quietly, as if they are still breathing. And you can let your thoughts slow. You can let your breath become the only rhythm you need. In and out. In and out. A little slower now, a little softer, as if you are setting the last piece of the day down beside you, as if you are placing a clay tablet on a shelf, as if you are finally letting the river flow without watching it. And if sleep comes, let it come the way night always comes to the land between rivers, without drama, without force, just a gentle deepening until the gods decide otherwise.